Hello guys, this is the day one lesson. This lesson is for the first day of Unit 3 about food writing. I do want to go through a couple of quick things, but essentially this video is going to be focused on the lesson and going through the slide deck with the things that I would normally say while we're in class and some prompting and things like that. This video will show up in the Unit 3 videos. You'll notice that you didn't get an email with a link for this one. That's mainly because I'm not going to do that for all of them. All the videos will appear down here, either on the day of a lesson or just before a lesson. Kind of running out of time on this one as I'm trying to get other things done and set up. But normally I'm going to try and have these recorded further in advance. All right, so if you wanted to watch them before class and just take notes during class, that would be fine as well. A couple of quick things in the resources folder. You'll notice that I've provided note sheets and then instructions and a link for Newsela. We're going to be using Newsela and Common Lit for a lot of our readings in class this quarter. They offer up the option to create a digital version of your class. So in other words, this link, when you click on it, will invite you guys to our class. There's also instructions if you've never used Newsela before. So go ahead and make sure you click in there and you join the class. I do believe you can access these 3 articles without that. I haven't created an assignment yet for them. I just want you guys to have an account. So that may be something I do in the future. And I'll be setting up Common Lit too as soon as I get the opportunity. So also the Cornell notes. I've shown them to you guys before. I use them with my regular students. I figured you would find them beneficial. There's 2 versions of the note sheet, a PDF version in the event that you want to print and write on these in a physical format. That's how I prefer it, but I've also provided a Google Doc version. When you click on the link, it'll make you create a copy, and then you can use it as you like. I'm not going to go into how to use the Cornell Note system. There's a ton of videos on it on the internet. So if you want to know more about this or how to effectively use this system, then go ahead and look one of those up. All right. If there's enough interest in it, I might create a separate video for it. But I do want to get into the lesson. So this quarter, we are talking about food writing. Food writing is an interesting topic. It is considered in a lot of cases, what's known as narrative nonfiction. All right. The Guide to Success, actually, I haven't updated this slide. The Guide to Success is actually posted. You'll see it at the top of the quarter. So all the assignments are on there. But food writing is something most of us have encountered, even if we don't realize it. If you've ever watched, any kind of cooking video, Food Network stuff, or, streaming blogger that talks about food, anything like that, I would consider as, food narrative. Food writing can be recipes. It can be more than just that, though. It can be descriptors of things. There's a lot of famous chefs who've actually written books about their time in the food industry, as restaurateurs or as people who travel the world and things like that. One of the more famous ones, who sadly passed away a few years ago, is Anthony Bourdain. He's got some great books that I highly recommend, and a couple of good TV shows that you can watch in most streaming platforms. The quote we have for today is: "Food is everything we are. It's an extension of our nationalist feeling, ethnic feeling, your personal history, your province, your region, your tribe, your grandma." And what he's saying here is that food is so intrinsically linked to us because as humans, we have to eat. Like everyone has to eat, right? Or should eat every single day. And that's something that activity that all humans engage in. And so just by the nature of human existence, where you're at, where your local congregate, where you are a human in your area are ingredients, and those ingredients are going to give rise to regional recipes. Your family is going to have predilections towards certain types of dishes. You are going to have a history with food, even if it's just the fact that every Friday night is pizza night with your family and stuff, right? Or when you get to your friends, you all go have boba every single Thursday or whatever. So we all have kind of this identity with food, and the goal this quarter is to really kind of take a look at that, what it means to examine it, what it means to write about it. So this quarter is all about food writing. This is, if I was in the class, I would ask you guys, what do you think food writing is? If you are taking notes, Take a moment, pause the video, write down some ideas about what an example of food writing would be, something that you think that represents some kind of food writing or any kind of writing that you've encountered. And I'll give you a moment if you want to do that. All right. So I do want to play you a video. This should play through this video just fine. I think this is a fairly good example of modern, kind of a modern food writer. So, Ansel Mullins is kind of a modern day food writer. You can essentially go anywhere in the world and talk about the food there, and it's going to be in some way different from yours. I mean, you could do that in the United States, right? We have dishes that are distinctly Southern, certain types of fried chicken, and stuff that is from New England, right? There's nothing like a New York slice of pizza versus a California roll from California, which is kind of a pan-Asian interpretation of a American Californian type of Asian dish type thing. These fusions of different cultures and stuff, and they happen all over the world. As you guys know, my history of Navy veteran, went to 35 countries. Every country that I went to had something distinct. And yes, you could go to a Starbucks there. There's KFC in remarkably, vast number of countries, Pizza Hut and Subways, and you can find these chains that we have nationally are now international and stuff. But you can also find the mom and pop, kind of places. So Mullins talks about, migration that shaped the plates of Istanbul, right? How can a single dish like kebabs, which is something he's showing from one of the food carts there, act as a history book for a city? What does the food tell us about the people who moved there? So this is the kind of question that when I put it up here, I want you to take a minute. You need to pause this video and you need to write something down. If you do it digitally, if you do it physically, that's fine. But I want you to treat this, it's not going to be for a grade or anything, but I want you to treat this with the same level you might a paragraph response, and give yourself 7 to 8 minutes to really consider this question. Maybe rewatch the video now that you have the context, and really write down something. Try to address this and see if this can help you better understand kind of what he's talking about, and what, some of these key terms. What does it mean for a people to migrate from one location to another and bring things with them, right? Sure, they bring, dance and music, but they bring their food all the time. People love their home dishes. So I'll pause, or I'll wait for a second. You would pause the video here, and you would write some stuff, and then you can resume the video at whatever point you like in the future. So let's talk about some commonly held ideas people have about food writing. Um, First is the myth that it's a cookbook, right? Food writing. Oh, there's some instructions, there's a recipe. My parents have some cookbooks, or my grandparents have some cookbooks, or I've seen some, or some food blogger has now put out something and I've seen it for sale at Walmart or Target, or something of that nature. And sure, that does fall in the realm of food writing, but that's the very tip of the iceberg. That would be like somebody saying that an app on your phone is the extent of gaming, right? And wouldn't even consider PS5, personal computer, Xbox games, MMORPGs. Right? Clash of Clans is not the end of gaming. It's just one very tiny subset of it. And that's the same thing with recipes and cookbooks. Reality of food writing is that a lot of it is about places, is about people, is about ingredients. It can be about economics of a spice. At this point, you guys should have done world history. You should have talked about, the Silk Road and the spice roads, and all these, times where we're talking about an ingredient in food to us is commonplace, right? I can go to the grocery store and go get it in various kind of jars and stuff. But back in the day, it could be used as currency because it was so valuable, because it was not easily accessible. It was not easily to ship and travel and consolidate these things into a single market. You might go to several different markets to get different things. So, when we look at food writing, it's examining all that kind of stuff. And really good food writing, anything that's actually worth spending your time reading, has taken both research and storytelling. All right. That's where the narrative nonfiction aspect comes into it. You need some type of research. Now, sometimes that research, you're diving in just like we did for the Mission to Mars type project, and you're looking at the history of a thing, you're finding sources and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes that research is you are going to go and try and cook a recipe, right? Maybe you have never been able to actually cook an omelet, and you want to be able to succeed in cooking an omelet, and you literally go buy 2 dozen eggs, and you spend an afternoon and you try and fail and try and fail and try and fail until you are able to be good at making an omelet. That's considered research and food writing. That is completely and totally possible, right? And then there's the narrative aspect. It doesn't exist in a vacuum. We enjoy any kind of nonfiction. We better enjoy it when we have a perspective on it, and having people, within that story, gives us that perspective, right? How does it affect people? Why did you choose to write this omelet? Why does your grandma always cook chicken nuggets a certain way, and what is it you remember about it, right? Food writing can use food as a lens. That's kind of what it comes down to. When we use a lens, we're using some specific characteristic to look at other aspects of life. So, we can look at the labor, who made a thing. Pardon me. I was going to sneeze. We can look at, labor, who made a thing, either a dish, who grew these chickens on a farm, who shipped this spice from this location, the people who are involved in ensuring that all the ingredients make it to McDonald's to make a Big Mac. The history of it. Where did something come from, right? Potatoes, which are often associated with England and with Ireland, are actually, I believe, from South America and various other areas, but they've been grown all over the world and have been applied to different kind of dishes throughout the world. Same thing with tomatoes. There's a lot of ingredients we associate with a specific culture. They did not come from there. They got brought there and popularized. The logic were the claims about this actual food, right? We hear the term antioxidants. What's an antioxidant, right? I hear strawberries have antioxidants. Why do you care? Does anyone actually know what those do, right? And are they real? Because we also live in a time where we see a lot of advertising about greens that you can put into your water and stir up, or gummies that have 47 vitamins and all this other kind of stuff. If you put it in your mouth and you chew it up, that's food. Are those claims real? Does it really do that? I mean, we know that orange juice, which comes from oranges, has vitamin C. There's been, decades of research into that. Okay, great. But what about other claims about other types of food, right? Do they make sense? Have people actually studied and researched it? Now, what I have here are three examples of food writing. Okay, these are fairly modern texts. I'm going to talk about each of them kind of briefly. I would recommend each of these. They are attainable. Obviously, you can go to various Fairfax County Public School Library or Fairfax County libraries. There might be a couple of these in our school library. I probably should have checked ahead of time. But let's talk about what modern food writing looks like. So, Salt was very popular as a book and also as a condiment, obviously, a while ago. This is written by Mark Kurlansky, and it literally tracks the history of this essentially most common ingredient these days, right? Like everywhere I went in the world, people had salt. You have salt on the table, right? When was the last time you went to a restaurant that didn't have some kind of salt? You probably all have it in your kitchens. I have different varieties of salt in my kitchen, right? I've got pink sea salt. I've got iodized salt. I've got kosher salt. I've got finishing salt. I have four different types of salt because why not, right? So this book literally tracks the history of this, and you have to think about it. Salt is a rock. It's a mineral, right? How many minerals do we actually consume on a regular basis actively? Like, I'm going to add more of this rock to my French fries so that I can consume it. That's a really interesting thing, right? So, in this aspect of food writing, it's examining one ingredient, looking at both its history, its economy, and what it has caused to happen and its effect on human culture. Here we have Alice, Let's Eat. So this is an older book, Calvin Trillin, and it's kind of like a travel log. All right, so it is this aspect of food writing that I really love, and you guys may have seen some shows like this, and I may use this unit as a excuse to post some videos of different travel writers that I really enjoy, where this gentleman decided to travel all over the place and find local foods, right? And it's everything from the diner down the street to, a hut in a third world country. And, essentially takes his wife with him and they go and they travel the world. in different nations and find out what kind of stuff people eat. What is it like to eat dinner here? What is breakfast like over here? Because these types of meals, well, we have a standard kind of idea here in the United States, in the East Coast, in the Mid Atlantic, in Northern Virginia. Um, you know, that isn't the same everywhere, right? If we go just a little further south, you might commonly have restaurants that have grits, right? That's not as common up here. We do have it, but I guarantee if you go further north, that's going to disappear almost completely. And that's just in 100 miles either way. In Asia, fish is a very popular protein to have with breakfast. I have had shrimp and grits before, but other than when I'm camping, that's not a mainstay for me. So this is a great idea of food writing as a lens into seeing other people in other parts of the world and how they approach dishes. And then here we have Michael Twitty, who is a what's known as a culinary historian. So what he does is he examines dishes as a avenue into culture and social economic type situations. He is examining in this specific book how some aspects and ingredients go from Africa, Trinidad, the Caribbean, and come to the United States and get mixed with what was popular here and create soul food and other types of dishes that are popular here in the United States and have been for more than a century, and where they come together. And so it's this journey of cooking as a lens through culture. And not all of it is good, right? We've had a fraught history with some aspects. And he examines that and he talks about it in a really good narrative voice. It's a really good book, and he has other ones too. There's also plenty of videos of him being interviewed and talking about aspects of this text. So that's an example or three examples of what modern food writing can be like. And those are just the tip of the iceberg. There's actually a anthology published every single year called the Best Travel and Food Writing. It used to be just the Best Food Writing, and now they've combined it with travel writing. So Best Travel and Food Writing, like each year, and we're talking about a 300-page book full of essays and articles, which is really good. A lot of times it'll pop up, these texts will pop up on Kindle Unlimited if you have that on Amazon. So, what is a process for food writing? As always, whenever I show you guys a process, this is not a silver bullet. There are different types, but this is a broad recommendation, mainly because food writing takes on a lot of different aspects. All right. Your final project, which is your food project, you may approach this in a very different way depending on what you write about. But here's broadly speaking how to work. First, you observe a dish, right? Whereas before you had a prompt, this time you're going to pick a dish, some kind of food, right? Is it a specific single thing like breakfast for your family, or is it the local burger and fries, or anything? But you pick a dish, all right? So let's pick an example here. Um, let's talk about eggs, right? Everyone or a lot of people eat eggs. If you're vegan and you don't eat eggs, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of picking the easiest example here, all right? So you observe a dish. Let's talk about eggs. Eggs, I don't even know the variety of ways that you can cook eggs, right? You can just fry an egg. There you go. You can scramble eggs. You can turn eggs into a souffle. You can use eggs to batter chicken to make fried chicken. There are many different preps and usages of eggs. Then you go and you gather facts, right? What are the history and economics? So, chickens have changed a lot over time in the United States. Well, we bred the current fryer chicken into the size that it is, but have eggs changed? When you change the physiology of an animal, that changes other aspects of it. So have eggs always been the same? Have chicken eggs always been as popular as they are now, right? You can go to most Asian grocery stores and you can pick up quail eggs and duck eggs and other types, but why don't we have that in common, other standard Giant and Safeway type options, right? And when did eggs get to a level where you could go, and so prevalent in the United States as a breakfast option? Find an anchor. So narrative nonfiction has to have some kind of anchor. It's a question you're asking or a specific thing you're focused on, the so what. And this comes down to literally somebody could look at this and say, so what? And you have to be able to answer that question. Why does this piece of writing matter? Why are you writing it, right? What is the thing you're trying to achieve? Before, you would be given a prompt. And I may or may not give you a prompt for the food project. For the food article, I probably will. But the food project, maybe just be more open. Go, make something for your family or a friend and feed it to them and see what happens and write about it. You're going to have to come up with what you're writing about at that point. Then you draft the piece. You're going to put down words on a page. As always, in this class, I highly recommend drafting and revising. I will say, just on the level, pretty much the entire class did very good with their research finals, and I saw a lot of people incorporating the feedback that I gave, and I think a lot of you really benefited and saw a direct benefit in having a draft process and then revision. And this is no different, right? You put down words, and for food writing and stuff, you may end up thinking you know what you're going to write about, then getting to a stage where you say, "Oh, actually, I hadn't just realized I'm actually looking at this aspect of eggs, my family's history with eggs, or something like that." And in the draft process, you may end up having a kind of a different direction you take. Revise and edit your piece for clarity. Okay, grammar, capitalization, punctuation. I still saw these kind of errors in your guys' final drafts: double spacing or extra spaces in certain areas, or miscapitalization, a wrong punctuation. You've got to start clearing this stuff out, okay? Because it just makes your reading look honestly more professional, which is what you guys should be striving for, right? Professionalism in your writing. As you guys next year will be turning into juniors, it's not that you're going to write for money, but you're writing for grades. You're writing to get compensation and turn out the best kind of writing, the best kind of assignments that you can, right? That's what you should be. So you should strive for professionalism in your writing. All right. We're going to get more detail into the process and break down some steps as we move forward. But the best way to begin is simply to begin and give you guys some examples of food writing. Now, in the resources folder, you're going to see 3 examples, all right, 3 articles. These are all within Newsela. And they should be accessible for you. You really do need to shoot me an email if you can't access them. Once you create the Newsela account, you should have no issue getting to them and reading them. I have links in the resources folder, or you could go ahead and look them up, through their search function. These are the 3 articles: Locavores and the Local Food Movement, Remembering When America Banned Sliced Bread, and Posu Bowl on the menu, more eateries serving Native American food. I'm probably ruining that pronunciation. Now, what I want you to do is pick 2. You're going to pick 2 articles, okay? Pick 2 of them and read them. And then I want you to consider these 3 questions and answer them in some aspect somewhere, all right? 1, what are the similarities in the language used between the 2 articles, all right? Is there a similarity in how they're conveying what they're talking about? Are there no similarities? Is it really in contrast to the 2? What are some of the adjectives that the author employs, and do you feel they are effective? You got to remember, guys, we all have a connection to food, and adjectives, strong adjectives, not just "it was tasty." Okay, great, cool, that was tasty popcorn. That's not effective writing when it comes to food writing. The butter was dripping off the popcorn and stained my shirt is more effective, right? You have to put someone who's reading food writing in that location, in that spot, so that they can process and remember a time that they experienced whatever the person is writing about. And then, why do you think these articles are classified as food writing? What aspect of this article makes it food writing? Is it looking at history? Is it looking at culture? Is it looking at ingredient? Try to define what makes it, and try to do it in about a sentence, okay? You should be able to explain why a piece of writing is food writing in about a sentence. It could be a chunky sentence, but it should be in a sentence, okay, that you can kind of convey this to somebody else. All right. So, obviously, if I was there in the room, we'd be having a class discussion. What did you take away from the articles that you read? I will unfortunately don't have an avenue for this. I may be adding digital discussions to the class. I may not. It all kind of depends on a few factors. So we're gonna have to play that by ear. But I want you to think about what your takeaways, high level takeaways. That was a good article. It was before the written article. I feel like that article was meant for elementary students or something. All those kind of things. What were your high level takeaways from the articles? Next class, yes, you have homework. I want you to bring the name of your favorite dish, your personal one, to the next class, okay? What is your favorite dish? Something that you really enjoy. And it could be just because it's tasty, it could be because your family has a connection to it. It could be this is the one, the last thing a grandparent cooked for you and it just sticks out in your mind. But just what is the thing, right? Your favorite dish. And that is it. All right. Obviously, if you have questions or anything, guys, go ahead and shoot me an email. And this video is unfortunately pretty long. I think it's going to be upwards of 30 minutes, so it might be a little late uploading. But hopefully, you've watched the other video first, and it should get rendered and uploaded in time. And that's it. You guys have a great day.